Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of On the Paint Table. This is my weekly show about what I got done, what I'm working on, and what is coming up. This week was a big week for painting Song of Ice and Fire's Night Watch. I also got some work done on my Stark Bowmen, just getting them assembled and primed, ready to go. And I've got some new stuff from Mantic, an objective set for Vanguard Kings of War, which I'm excited about too. So let's take a look at what got painted and what I'm working on next. So first off, here's what got done. I painted up the entire Song of Ice and Fire starter set for the Night's Watch. So all the models that came in here. You get 2 units of Sworn Brothers, which are these guys with the big double-handed swords, and their captains, which are the attachments standing on each side. A unit of Watch Veterans, which are these kind of surly-looking bunch right here with the daggers and swords. A unit of Ranger Trackers, which are bowmen on cavalry stands, so big horsey dudes. And then you get Ghost and Jon Snow, because you have to have a Jon Snow, otherwise how are you going to know nothing? And there he is. He can be a commander option or just a combat attachment to one of your units. And of course, if you take him, you can get Ghost. And you get a host of other characters, including Maester Aemon, Jeor Mormont, the dad of Jorah Mormont, and also the 997th Watch Commander with his little raven there. And then you get the first Steward as well, who's another NCU type, who lets you do some card draw tactics and pull out some additional cards during your turn that you would normally draw. They're a really neat faction. They use a new mechanic called Taking Vows. And they're probably the most elite faction in the game. I think these guys play actually the way that most people probably think the Starks play, where they're just really good fighters. These are the really good fighters. They have good armor. They have both of the best combat rules, which is Sundering and Critical Blow, on just their basic units, which is the Sworn Brothers here. And they can get better by attaching vows, so you can play cards in your hand to attach a vow to the unit. And the vows allow you additional abilities depending upon what you hold on a tactics board. So they'll have like a play where you play the card, but then you can also attach them, so they keep doing it. So one of my favorites, for instance, is the Shield that Guards the Walls of Men. They're all named after parts of the Night's Watch Oath. And if you control the money bag, which you very often do because Maester Aemon loves to grab that, or if you're playing Mormont as an NCU, if he attaches to a unit, they count as controlling all of the tactics board. You just block D3 hits automatically every time you get attacked, and that can make units incredibly durable. They play kind of like the Berserkers from the Starks, with a couple less attacks, but better armor, 4+ armor saves. And they have Critical Blow on top of having Sundering, which means they, on 6s to hit, get an additional hit. So they generate tons of damage. They can be sort of like tooled up to do extra stuff too. The Ranger Trackers are shooters, but what they're really there to do is kind of lurk behind the lines, firing into combats, and also they get to blitz with a vulnerable counter, so they can put a vulnerable out onto people. So whoever you're attacking can be forced to reroll their saves. And then the Veterans of the Watch, they're a bit better fighters just by number of dice than the Sworn Brothers, but they have 3+ armor. They're very defensive. They're good at keeping themselves alive, and they have an order where every time they take a hit, once per round basically, you can expend the order, and every hit you block is a hit back on the enemy. They counterattack, so they're pretty super dangerous. My favorite thing in the army probably though is Ghost, because his whole jam is whatever unit Jon is leading, the Ghost can activate before or after it. Any unit he attacks can't play tactics cards, so those slimy Lannisters can't play tactics if you double team with Ghost, because he's a silent predator. He distracts people and keeps you from knowing what you can do. There's more units coming up for these guys. There is a Builder Scorpion crew. It's the first artillery piece in the game. Actually belongs to the Watch, which I guess makes sense because technically they are a defensive like guard formation on a wall. And they also have some Rangers on foot who are neat because they have a shoot and scoot mechanic where if they fight, they can fall back right afterwards. And they're like a lighter version of these guys, not on horses. And then there's they've kind of previewed some of the models from the second Heroes box, which I'm super stoked about, actually the first Heroes box, because you get Cold Hands, which is, in the show, they explain Cold Hands as being Benjen Stark, which is Jon Snow's uncle, but he's just, in the books, he's just this giant kind of skeletal hooded figure that you can only see his eyes, and he has black hands where like the blood's pooled in his hands, and he rides this giant elk and has like a murder of birds that follow him around and fight. So he's like an undead former Night's Watchman roaming around above the wall, and he's super cool. And the model looks amazing. I think they previewed it either Gen Con or Salute. There was a picture of it floating around, along with Sam and Gilly, because you got Sam and Gilly, Corn Halfhand, the leader of the Rangers, who's the fella that Jon has to kill to get Mance Rayder to like believe that he's actually betrayed the Watch, and someone else, I can't remember, I think it's Val. There's someone else that you get as an attachment. And then I also went and painted up Roose Bolton. The Roose is loose because he's a great attachment for the Night's Watch. He's a neutral hero, so you can attach to any faction. But you could imagine him being forced to take the black. He does some pretty terrifying things in the books and the TV show. And he can be attached to any unit that's an infantry unit to give them the ability to cause panic tests on the charge and build in some healing. Whenever someone fails a panic test while engaged with him, his unit gets 2 wounds back. So he's a nice little combo with the Night's Watch, and he kind of fits because he's just a scummy dude that you'd have him as part of the watch. And he helps this go to 40 points as well. You can make about 39 points out of just the box, which is an army, but he'll take it to slightly bigger too if you want to try and max out your point values. So a ton of fun painting these guys. The bases were done just prime black and then dry brushing the texture that's already on there. I added some of the Citadel Valhalla Snow and some Gamer's Grass white winter tufts. So like they're supposed to be like frostbitten basically, to give myself my up north near the wall look to my bases. The models were prime black, and then the clothing was all airbrushed a very deep charcoal gray, and the cloaks were all my favorite P3 coal black, which is like a great, it's just like off black color. You've seen me use it on my Death Watch and stuff, but it's just a great way of getting the colors down. And then I used P3 skin tones for the skin, a variety of other colors for the base coats. I think I used that new Boiler Black metallic for the swords. And then Gehenna Gold and whatever that new copper is, maybe High Shut Copper from Citadel for the handles and everything, just to give them their weapons are all functional, right? These aren't lords, so I didn't want them to be gold. I want them to be kind of like bronzy and coppery. I was really happy with that, and I used a great new wash from, what is it? The same people that made those new metallics. I think it's, oh, hang on, I'm gonna check. Stuff World. That's why I was struggling, because it's not something I normally associate with paints. They've done a great wash set, and I was using the Andalusian Earth and the Atramentum Black for the washes on these. So the browns, the earth and stuff was on all of the cloaks and the faces and hairs, and then the black was on the metallics. I really like it because it's got a really neat finish. It reminds me of when people were experimenting with like Minwax and stuff. It has like a sort of like that smooth, like semi-opaque, like translucent to the edge, like way that it dries. So it doesn't blackline the way like the Agrax and Null Oil Gloss do. Instead, it kind of gives you like a really neat transition and kind of tints everything. Really happy with it. I've been playing around with it. It's been a lot of fun. So I used those on these guys, and I didn't actually even need to highlight the browns for like the bear skin on the back. It just all got done by wash, and I'm really happy with it when it was all done. So yeah, so that's what I painted this week. Let's look what's coming up. Pretty simple this week. I base coated all of these objectives from Mantic. So these are all the objectives you need for Vanguard Kings of War, but you could just use them as objectives for any game. So it's like, you've got some cool little, like, here's the lost intelligence. There's a dead courier on his horse, a dragon egg, gold coins, you know, just various like objective markers. Some standing stones would be great for Frostgrave. And a big watchtower, a princess you can rescue tied to a stake. And I really like this one. It's the Watchfire, but it's unlit, and then you light it. You put the actual like fire on top of it to make it lit, a beacon. Gonna be great for tons of different games. I'm pretty stoked to get them painted. I just got them all primed up. I'm gonna start airbrushing them probably next week. And then I just got my bowmen assembled and primed, and they're gonna get painted this week too. I'm gonna do the airbrushing on them, and hopefully have them done for my Starks. So a few things coming up, and of course this week coming up, you're gonna be able to see Vanguard Kings of War Let's Play on Monday, and tomorrow we're gonna skip Witches and Wonders to do some tournament coverage. I painted these up to play if I have to be the ringer in our first Song of Ice and Fire tournament that's happening tomorrow locally here in Canada, and I'm going to be live streaming those 3 games. So check it out tomorrow for some tournament coverage and getting to watch some people play Song of Ice and Fire. And if I am playing, if I'm playing as the ringer, I'll be playing with the Night's Watch. So you go on the paint table, done and on the books. Another, 36, 45, 46, 47, 48 models painted. So a busy week of painting it again. Yeah, I think we're over 800 now. I think I'm over 800 for models painted this year. It's been a big year. I don't think I'm gonna get to 1,000. There's like a month and a half left. I mean, do I paint 200 models at the end of November, December? I think it's possible. I could push for 1,000. Comment below if you think I should try for 1,000 models this year. It's a nice round number. It does have something to say for it. So anyway, we'll see you next week for another On the Paint Table. You can check out what I got done. Until next time, I'm Ash. Thanks for watching. Happy working. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to support the channel, of course, like and subscribe and hit the little bell below so you get notifications when I post future content. I do post stuff 7 days a week. If you want to support the channel further, you can, of course, buy a t-shirt through Spreadshirt, buy a measuring gauge or objective markers from Death Ray Designs, or, of course, most importantly, there is Patreon. Patreon is what makes all this possible, keeps the lights on, pays for the studio costs, pays for the equipment, model costs, and everything else, and most importantly, puts food in my kids' bellies and a roof over their heads. Big thanks to everyone, past, future, who supported me. I do this stuff because of you guys, and of course, I will continue doing it as long as I can.